This?
Yeah, bring one close to you.
Probably turn it on.
It's on. You're actually live right now. Hey, we did it through some technical difficulties. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're tuning in on our very first episode of Conspiracies and Mysteries, I thank you. So my other podcast, Troy, I've been doing it for over a year.
That's hard to believe.
Do you know I still have technical difficulties?
Well, you're getting older.
So he's calling out senioritis right here. But hey, that's okay. It's our very first episode. Welcome to Conspiracies and Mysteries. And joined today, now I'm just going to say this right now, he's my guest, but I'm hoping you guys show him some love so he could be our host along with me. Everybody, welcome Troy Whitworth.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, I got to tell you, dude, that shirt, you
like it?
You are dapper, dude.
Put a hat on, it'll probably look like Larry the Cable Guy, right?
Okay, we can go with that. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, before we get started with our show, let me just give you a little bit of history real fast. I almost was going to start rapping. It started way back in history.
96.
Was it 96?
96. Okay,
so back in 96, I happened to have a lunch with Troy and my son, Josh. So it's got to be older than that.
Well, yeah, I thought we were going to talk about when we sold cars together.
Oh, well, okay. So
that was 96.
We're going back to it. My son was about 14 years old. We were at a Subway. We were just having a conversation. And some of the weirdest things came up. But like when I was talking to you, bro, I was mesmerized with the plethora of knowledge. Oh, yes. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's approximately 15 years later, and guess what? We have a show.
Yeah, it's hard to believe.
Conspiracies and
because we
podcast.
talked about doing something like this back then.
For years, dude. We always wanted to be on the radio. Yeah. So tonight, we're going to dive deep. And again, we're going to get into the show. But here's what I encourage you. If there's something that you've been thinking about for years and you know better than what you heard, and okay, maybe it's just your opinion, I want to hear from you. I really do. The topics are wide open to an extent, okay, because it's media. But listen, if you get a chance or watch this back, you can email me, trustonriverbender@gmail.com. Send me an email. Tell me your name. Tell me the topics that you want to speak of. You know, a lot of times when you're watching these other social media platforms, you're noticing, Troy, that they're like in a courtroom and it's a general of the military or it's a PhD. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm taking you back in history where what I remember in high school was we the people.
Right.
You deserve a voice. I was given an opportunity to be a voice, and on this podcast, okay, could I put somebody on this radio and like, oh, Trust has got somebody on the show? Okay, that's cool, but I want to hear from you. This is a podcast for the people, we the people, period.
I would say you're a man of the people.
Oh, thank you. You're going to make me blush. But really, I just think it's my high blood pressure right now. So, hey, before we continue, I don't know like the technicals, so I had to write it down just to make sure we're good. There is a disclaimer before we move forward, Troy. So before we get started, I just want to make it clear that the opinions and ideas shared on this podcast are our own, Troy and I, and don't necessarily reflect the views of RiverBender Radio, its staff, or anyone else involved with the station. This show is all about exploring different perspectives, asking questions, and sparking conversation, not presenting any official stance or absolute truth. So now that we've got that, Troy.
They're just opinions, right?
Well,
is that what we're talking about, opinions?
Well, first of all,
an expert at this.
Well, maybe at this.
Yeah, right.
But I'm an expert at the buffet.
Well,
and I've got evidence to show.
I see that point.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know.
But the rest of the show, guys, it's going to be about our opinions because I've got some curious questions. You know, so are you ready to get this started?
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah.
So I'm ready to get this started. So now that we're past technical difficulties, welcome to Conspiracies and Mysteries.
Good evening. The essential facts are these. President Kennedy was murdered in Dallas, Texas. He was shot by a sniper hiding in a building near his parade route.
So listen, to some, I apologize. I know that was pretty graphic, but that's going to be our topic right now. We're going to talk about JFK. From what I hear, it's probably one of the biggest. There's a ton of conspiracies out there.
Absolutely.
But this is one of the biggest ones. And matter of fact, I'm probably off on my dates, but I believe this month is X amount of years thereafter. Okay, I didn't look it up.
Yeah.
I just got talk closer to the mic when you get a chance.
Sorry.
Yeah, I just got that memo. So, Troy, just jumping right in. One of the things that I have a bolt action rifle. Okay. One of the big things they talk about this is how many shots are you familiar with?
Listen, guns. I'm not into guns.
Okay, but not into guns.
I know
but
Oswald.
Are you familiar with how many shots they were taken?
What would you? 4, 6? I don't remember.
I was told 3.
3.
But one of the big things that brought up that raises my curiosity. So yeah, I'm a gun lover. A bolt action rifle. You load it. You take your time.
It takes a little bit of doing.
Right. But what they're saying is, from the original investigation, what they're saying is you can't change the bullet out that fast. So that leads to the next question, Troy. Let me ask you this. Do you think it was just one shooter, or do you think there was more?
No. First of all, I don't believe Oswald was an expert marksman. Okay. I think it involved several people. I think it involved a lot of people in the government, from the CIA to the Joint Chiefs of Staff to Johnson. But everyone's got an opinion on it. But before we get started, I want you to take a piece of a dollar out of your pocket. Do you have a dollar on you? Dude,
I know I had to pay you to be on the episode.
Well, these are the breaks.
How about this?
Okay, I want you to look at it. And it says, "In God we trust." I know you want to say, "In trust we trust."
That's right. That's my middle name, Brian. Okay, In God we trust.
Yeah.
So listen, what do they say when you're young and you're growing up? If your name's on it, it's mine.
Finders keepers.
Yeah. So everybody, give me your money. But go ahead. Okay. So I'm looking at
what
this.
else does it say? What kind of a note is that? What does it say?
I'm still looking for the In God we trust. Dude, I would have brought my cheaters.
Okay. It should
say. You have to help me.
It
says Federal Reserve
Federal Reserve Note. Okay. You can put that back, and I'll bring it up later at the end of the show.
Okay. So we're going to talk about this later. Okay. Right across the top, what Troy's saying is pay attention later. We're going to talk about Federal Reserve Note.
Yeah.
I
don't know if people know how the Fed works. I don't know if I do, but I can tell you that we use their currency. Okay. A lot of people think that's part of our elected government or whatever, and it's not. Okay. It's actually worldwide bankers, but to get to JFK, you got to go through a little bit of history.
Okay.
The Federal Reserve, like I said, worldwide bankers, they're this shadowy outfit that floats around. I even read at one point where they had approached Adolf Hitler because he needed to finance the war effort, and he turned them down because he didn't like the direction they wanted to go. Same with Abraham Lincoln. Okay, he needed money to finance the war. He had all of these other nations coming in wanting to finance the war, and he didn't want our country to go into debt over the war, right? So he came out with this thing called greenbacks, which was really just faith in the people.
So keep me on pace. We're still talking about JFK.
Yes, we are.
Okay.
But anyway, I'm gonna let that sit for a minute. Okay. But getting back to who shot JFK, man, I have had so many conversations with people about.
Am I wrong to say the Cubans? Because that's kind of one of the things I hear about.
Let's look at who he pissed off. Okay.
Okay.
I mean, you can look at the mafia angle. Okay. You got to remember JFK. He was a good-looking guy in his 40s. He almost daily enjoyed swimming naked in the pool in the White House with secretaries. I don't know if you knew that or not.
No.
But yes, and he had a lot of girlfriends, right? A lot of people think that that's why Marilyn Monroe was off.
You guys know this? Go ahead. What did you say about Marilyn Monroe?
Well, he was with Marilyn Monroe, okay? And I think Bobby was too. And I think that's why they offed her, and that's why maybe they killed Bobby as well, because this thing, what they did to JFK was so big, and they got by with it. I'm going to tell you something. If had they not gotten by with what they did, our government would be a lot different now.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. They always talk about when a situation happens, look at the consequences years later.
But anyway, JFK shared a girlfriend with somebody by the name of Sam Giancana. Does that name ring a bell to you?
No.
He was mafioso.
Okay.
Okay. So obviously that didn't set well. Neither did Bobby Kennedy with the mob, because, Sinatra had procured all these things telling the mob that, hey, we got a guy in the White House, blah, blah, blah. As soon as he gets in, Bobby Kennedy is turning up the screws to the mob. And there was even a hit that was to go out on Frank Sinatra over this. And they didn't do it, obviously, but so the mob was pissed off at him, okay? The Cubans were pissed off at him because of the Bay of Pigs, okay? I think Allen Dulles was the head of the CIA at that point. I'm not for sure about that, but I think he was. So anyway, when it came out that JFK, our government was actively trying to take out Castro, of course, he pinned it on Dulles, and I'll bring that up later. The Cuban Missile Crisis, Khrushchev, I think JFK, which I'm a conservative guy, but I love the Kennedys, okay? But JFK was, Khrushchev found out that JFK had some backbone. Let me tell you something. Not the Bay of Pigs, but the Cuban Missile Crisis, everybody in his cabinet was wanting to go to war. Because they were shooting at us. I mean, his cabinet was wanting to go to war. And if it had not been for Bobby Kennedy in the dark of night to make a deal with Khrushchev that we wouldn't go after Cuba, if it wasn't for that, we may not be here, So
kind of one of the things I want to talk about, interrupt briefly. I love what this podcast is about, but a lot of times what I don't think, when I say this, when I say dumb it down, that's not for you. This is for me. Because I look back and I reflect back on where our country was, where it's at today. That'll be a whole nother episode, okay? But the reality is, I guess because I'm older, I'm concerned where it's going. So, for example, let's stay on the topic of JFK. One of the biggest conspiracies, and on top of JFK, on everything, why I'm going back to we the people. How come the government has all this classified information, and I'm bouncing to current, recently Trump passed something to where you have to put it out there, right? But even when they put it out there, it's still known that we still don't have all the information. No. So it's like it's a selective of what they're releasing. And here's the crazy thing. This isn't my opinion, by the way. This is factual. That some of the stuff that they're releasing now is kind of changing what took place X amount of years ago.
But they're never going to release the what they know. I mean, they're never going to.
So this is kind of where I was going at. We're going to go back to JFK, but here's what I'm going to ask you when I say we the people. Why does the government hold things back from us? Of all topics we're going to talk about, UFOs and aliens, why is it okay for them to know but not to share? And then what they tell us, they don't share it with us, so they don't put the country in a state of panic. What do you think of that?
Well, I think it's a good way to control the masses. It's control.
Right, but you agree with it, but the reality is we're still not getting the truth.
No.
So I like your opinion. I do. I'm asking you because I want to know.
Well, so we know that the Cubans weren't a fan, right? We know that the mafia was not a fan. We know that Khrushchev was not a fan, okay? And then LBJ was not a fan either. He couldn't stand the Kennedy boys. As a matter of fact, Bobby was in the White House so much talking to JFK about this very thing I was telling you about, the Cuban Missile Crisis, that LBJ thought he had no place, right? There was nothing for him to do. And so he couldn't stand him. But here is the thing that I think they shopped around the hit. They got a patsy. I mean, I know this is all cliche stuff when they talk about, he was, but
that's why it's a podcast. We're just talking about it.
Yeah. But Oswald was, this guy, he famously defected and went to the Soviet Union. And then he was there, met a gal. And then he wanted to come back. Okay. He comes back and can't find a job. I think at some point in his marriage to this woman, he had 2 kids and couldn't get work, and he was frustrated with that. He was in his 20s, and
wow. Okay.
So
I didn't even know that.
Yeah. So anyway, I guess his wife was living at someone else's house, and he visited on the weekends and that sort of thing. But the gal that where she lived, this person, I guess had, I don't know if her husband was something to do with the government. Anyway, they cut a deal. They get the guy back here, and they get him a job. Now he's not in Dallas at one point. He's not in Dallas, but there's the job that opens up in Dallas. Okay, some of the oil people that LBJ hung with, one of those guys owned the book depository. Okay, can you see where this is going? So anyway,
yeah, you're connecting the dots.
So here's what doesn't make sense, and I throw this out to anyone who's on any side of this thing.
We're talking to you.
How is it that we believe that of all the places this guy could get a job, he gets one at the Texas Book Depository right there in the sniper's nest for JFK? That does not make sense. There's no way. What are the odds of that, right?
Well, it's connecting the dots. And again, here, I'm loving that you speak that because I've heard things and I've watched things. Never once had somebody point that out to me. The coincidence.
It just doesn't make sense.
Right. First of all, you're not welcome back. You can't even get a job.
But he got him back.
Yeah.
And I don't know if at that point he colluded. I've heard where he had, because I think they tried to kill JFK 2 weeks prior in Chicago, and they get a call that and it was called off. There were some people that contend that there was a conversation between LBJ's mistress and Oswald, but that Oswald didn't even have a thing against JFK, So, there's a lot of different fragments, but here's what I don't understand about it.
Right.
In the aftermath that followed, the Warren Commission, LBJ, the first thing LBJ did, one of the first things that he did, was call the Dallas police and tell them to stop the investigation.
Okay.
Now, you can check that out, but that was, that's odd. They didn't, I don't think he had jurisdiction to do that, but he called it off because they found their man. It was Oswald. The Warren Commission report wasn't to investigate anything, really, in my opinion. It was to just tell everyone that Oswald did it. To throw the scent off. But I still don't understand how he got in the Texas Book Depository out of all the places he could have gone to get a job. And he winds up in the sniper's nest. It does not make sense. Now, let me tell you why I think he got killed. I brought up Hitler and the Fed, right?
Yes, sir.
Supposedly they met in Munich in a beer hall, okay? And he did not like the direction they were going to go. They wanted to go in. They wanted Hitler to go into these other countries, and he wouldn't do it. Abraham Lincoln, which, by the way, the parallels between Lincoln and Kennedy, we don't even have to go into all of that, about the secretaries and all this. But, he decided that he wanted to take the American people out of debt with the Federal Reserve. Now, that's a fact. Okay. He signed a presidential order several months before he was assassinated that they were going to eliminate the Federal Reserve, which is, again, these worldwide bankers, right? And I think that's what did it. I think that there was enough people involved. I think several branches of the government was. I think LBJ was in it up to his eyeballs. Okay. Now, when you think about what happened after Kennedy, he had Johnson, right?
So now we're talking about the consequences,
right? So Johnson puts out fires wherever he can. There were so many people that were willing to testify as eyewitnesses that either mysteriously died, commit suicide, or had heart attacks. It was amazing how many people did.
Yeah, because you're going to make me want to bring up another topic. Can I just bring it up right now?
Sure, go ahead.
I'm going to go back to, by the way, this is an unpaid commercial, but Subway, if you're watching, that's how Troy and I started this 15 years ago. I'm going to hit you up for some advertisement. But getting back to this, I know you don't recall this conversation.
No,
I remember it vividly. You had shared something. I know we're talking about JFK, but I want to bring something else up that's going to paint the picture right here, okay? You had told me back then that there was a gentleman, and if I word this properly, he invented a hydrogen engine.
Oh yeah.
Okay, and you were sharing that with me, and you were saying, Brian, that this is such an amazing development, but you also, I'm going to speed this one up so we can get back on JFK. That guy disappeared.
Yes. Absolutely disappeared. And it's such an old story, but it's true.
So we'll go back to that. So what I'm jumping back
They're going
to
to buy up the patents, and then the guy either disappears, or never gets put in the works.
And there's so much more we could talk about that, okay? What we were talking about the
and what
federal
they did
government.
to Tesla was amazing, but that's a different show.
Right. So going back to JFK and going back to Lee Harvey Oswald.
Right.
They paint the picture on him.
Okay.
Okay. Then he's out of the equation.
And now you have LBJ.
Because now Lee Harvey Oswald can't speak for himself.
Right. What happened? We all know what happened to Oswald. He got offed by a guy named Jack Ruby. His real name was Jack Rubenstein. Okay. And he was supplying Cuba with guns. All right. So the government had the goods on him. All right. So, but they brought him in. Now, the reason they brought him in, I think the cop was named J.D. Tippit, was the officer that Oswald killed with a handgun, okay, when he left Dealey Plaza. Now, I've heard where this J.D. Tippit, who was a decorated military man, was to take care of Oswald.
Okay.
But that didn't happen. I mean, he got killed, right? So they brought in Jack Ruby. Now, again, there's no proof. This is all just what you're reading here. So they bring him in, and he was, I can't remember how he was connected to, but they had the goods on him. Okay, I mean, he was, like I said, he was funneling guns to Cuba. He was profiting money, right? So now you have LBJ as president. The first thing he does, like I said, he starts putting out fires. He calls Dallas police and tells them not to pursue this investigation any further, right? Because now
everything's classified, everything's locked away.
Right. Yeah, we got our man. Nothing to see here.
Well, let's do this before you get in the conversation, really fast. To pay for this podcast, we got to take a commercial break. So hang on to that thought. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, I'm so fired up that this is our first episode. Don't go nowhere. We'll be right back after these messages.
At Marquette Catholic High School, tradition is more than a word. It's a way of life. From championship athletics to community service, from lifelong friendships to faith-filled values, Marquette students carry a legacy of excellence. Together, we build a stronger community on the field, in the classroom, and beyond. Marquette Catholic, where tradition meets tomorrow. Visit marquettecatholic.org and see why Marquette is the right choice for your family.
You won't find a better health club than Nautilus Fitness Center. More cardio, more free weights and equipment, more classes, a swimming pool, and more. If you're serious about your health and want to make a change, then stop thinking about it and visit Nautilus Fitness Center on Industrial Drive in Alton. Don't fall for the hype you get from the other health clubs. Nautilus is the Riverbend's premier health club. Has been for years and will be for years to come. Get to Nautilus Fitness Center and get started on a healthier new you.
Hey, we're back. Where am I at here? Hey, going back to those technical difficulties, Trust, what is the matter with you? But hey, if you can hear me, there I am. Woo! Okay, so right before we went to the commercial, guys, let's do a quick recap. If you're watching this live or you go back to watch this, hey, I want to hear from you, okay? My email address, trustonriverbender@gmail.com. So to get us caught back up to speed, we're talking about JFK. We determined there was 3 shots. But did we determine that there's more than one shooter?
Yeah, I mean, there's the whole grassy knoll theory, which we can get into real quick.
Okay, let's do it.
They called them the three tramps that I guess were found in and around, floating around this train car afterwards. And again, you got to remember, at that point, after it happened, okay, it was Dallas police were involved. It wasn't just feds. I mean, feds didn't have, Dallas police were involved. So these three tramps, right? Now, here's what's interesting about these guys. If you look at the photos, there is a guy that looks strikingly familiar to E. Howard Hunt. Now, I know you don't, the name ring a bell to you?
No, because I got that look on my face. Deer in the headlights.
Okay. E. Howard Hunt was kind of a guy that lived on the edges of the CIA. He kind of did the dirty work a little bit for the CIA, okay?
The stuff us general people don't know about.
Yeah. But what's interesting is that 10 years after this assassination, is there someone there?
No, hey, look, we've only a half an hour in the show. We're talking conspiracies, and this is what we got to do.
Yeah.
So, remember, this is an opinion entertainment
it's all opinion.
podcast,
there's nothing to be
okay?
proven here.
But yeah, okay, go ahead.
But 10 years after the math, he winds up in the Watergate affair.
So when you talk about this photo, and he says he looks
E. Howard
like...
Hunt
So
is at the Dealey Plaza, and then he's involved in this Watergate affair. I don't know if he's opening the door, waiting for Nixon to come in. I don't know what he's doing, but he's doing the work, the shadowy work again.
Okay.
Now, you got to remember, I tell you what, when I was trying to research a little bit of this now, it's amazing what's changed on Google. It really is amazing, because the things that I had read, or followed up, everything is almost like changed now. It's just amazing. I thought, I thought this said, no, it's something else now. So I don't even know if we're getting a straight scoop on history. But anyway, getting back to E. Howard Hunt, supposedly on his deathbed, he confessed to his son that even though he was not involved in the shooting, that he was there at Dealey Plaza. Okay? So that reeks of CIA dirty work. Doesn't it?
Don't you always hear me say whistleblower?
Yeah, right. Which I want to talk about that.
Yeah, me too.
But,
I definitely want to talk to all you whistleblowers. But okay.
But anyway, if you look at the time frame, you had Johnson, right, who did not run for a second term. Okay, he started the Warren Commission report. Like that was going to be everyone's focus, was what they could come up with, and really the whole focus was to prove that it was Oswald, right?
Right. Just trying to keep cut and seal, right?
But think about this. Okay, you had Johnson, and then you had Nixon, who I contend was there. Okay, now I've read where he wasn't, but I've read where he was. I've also read where George Herbert Walker Bush was there that day. But anyway, it's anyone's guess. How long ago it was.
Sure.
But
we didn't have today's technology to capture everything.
Correct. But if Nixon knew what the CIA was doing, then you can see why they tried to get him out through Watergate, right? So who comes in after that? You remember that, don't you? Who was after Nixon?
Well, if I said it, I don't want to embarrass myself if I say it wrong, because my timelines, and I'm gonna lack my history here.
It was
wait, don't tell me. Can I say it quietly just in case I say it wrong?
Yeah.
Was it?
No.
Okay. Let me get back to the microphone and let me say this. No, Troy, tell us who that was.
That was Gerald Ford, who never even got elected.
I was gonna say that.
Okay. And then he pardons Nixon. These people, Gerald Ford was a member of the commission, the Warren Commission, right? These men were they figured the guys that were in on it, we got to get rid of them eventually, right? So they got rid of Nixon, they got rid of LBJ, in power. And they had the goods on LBJ, by the way. LBJ was corrupt up to his eyeballs. Okay,
Wait a second, a government official corrupt?
Yeah, LBJ was. From what I understand, is that had he not been assassinated, I think Look magazine was going to run an article about how utterly corrupt
exposing
LBJ was. Okay. So anyway, they had to go in and clean up their mess. You couple that with all the people that either committed suicide or had heart attacks that were eyewitnesses to the event. There's a Zapruder film that I think 2 or 3, parts of it were taken out. He turned it into Life magazine. They came in and took out parts of it. So, but I think there was more than one. But the reason I think he got assassinated on that day, okay, it wasn't Giancana, his girlfriend, it wasn't Khrushchev, it wasn't the Cubans. Now, I think they may have been aware of it.
Okay.
I don't know. But here's the one thing. Remember I told you to pull something out of your...
Yeah, I don't have a drum roll, but I'm ready for this.
And what did it say?
Federal Reserve note.
Okay. And I told you about the presidential decree that he had signed several months before he died.
Yes.
Okay.
And again, the purpose of that...
What does this look like to you?
A $5 bill?
$5 bill.
Yeah, okay.
Right?
Hey, I got that one right.
Yeah. But what does it say right above the United States of America?
United States note.
Yeah, not the Federal Reserve note.
Okay, so is this an older?
They went into circulation, and they were supposed to come out with 20s that would follow the 5s, right?
Okay.
This is, I don't know if they can see this or not.
I can put it up there for you. It is kind of weird because if I didn't look at it myself, it's right above the United States of America. It says United States note.
Right.
And when I showed that 20 earlier, it clearly states Federal Reserve note. So here's what I want to get at.
Well, wait a minute. Before,
go ahead. Before
put
I
the
put it
icing
away.
on the cake here.
Yeah.
No, you can put that away.
Okay.
LBJ's first day in office, he struck that. That's one of the first things he did. So we got back on the Federal Reserve, and we've been on it ever since. So we, I don't want to get into fractionalized banking.
Well, on that particular topic, I'm just going to tell you guys right now, Trust is not nearly that educated. I don't want to say his name unless he gives me permission. But on that very same topic, a gentleman was addressing me about the banking system to a level that you're doing. And I think as an everyday person, that's what I consider myself. Like, that's a whole nother thing that I don't think any of us even pay attention other than what we would know, connect the dots or follow the money.
Yeah, because, the United States is it's a corporation.
Okay,
that's really what it is.
I interrupted you. You were just about to reveal the reason.
That was the reason.
That was the reason.
Because the Fed wasn't going to have that at all. You can talk about women or whatever, but it was in my estimation, and it's just my opinion.
Okay.
That it was because I believe, I believe that's why. I even believe that's maybe why Lincoln was taken out, because of the greenbacks.
So following the money.
Yeah, because these guys, I wish I knew more about banking. I know fractionalized banking and lending is a scam from the get-go. I mean, it's indebtedness, and JFK was going to have it, and Bobby Kennedy. Those two men were great men. Bobby Kennedy was going to clean up. He was going to go after the mob. I've got books I've got magazine articles at home written by Bobby Kennedy. This guy was phenomenal. I mean, he would talk about the safety of automobiles back in 1960, 65, 66, whenever it was. And by the way, they took him out too. I want to tell you something else I didn't talk about. Have you ever heard of the 33rd parallel?
I haven't until you brought it up.
Okay.
Now, again, just so I can tell you that I listened to you, didn't you even tie the 33rd parallel to Jesus when he walked the earth?
Well, yeah, he started his ministry at 30.
Okay.
His ministry was for 3 years.
Folks, I do listen. Go ahead.
And he was crucified at 33.
So, hey, we're going to jump into the 33rd parallel. Okay. But here's what I want to say. You kind of heard Troy and Troy's take on it. So here's what I want you to do with me. This is going to be an engagement podcast. So you can either do it in the comments on Facebook, but if you don't want to start a keyboard warrior fight, then don't do it. But that's the truth today, okay? But I do. I want to hear, if you're a JFK and you've been following it and you have your theories, a couple things I want to know. One, do you feel Troy's onto something, that the assassination, even though there was multitudes of opportunities, Troy's saying this is based on the currency, Federal Reserve, okay? And And if there's anything different that you would like to add to the JFK, remember, trustonriverbender@gmail.com. This way it stays discreet. Listen, I love Facebook and the way we can interact and social engagement, but listen, we don't want to start any keyboard warriors that take it to another level.
No, I want to tell you something. Everyone, it's just an opinion. It's just an opinion. I want to tell you something else. I talk a lot about Plato's Cave, right? For people that don't know, Plato's Cave is basically people that have walked into this cave, and all they can see, they're looking backwards, and all they can see is what maybe is a fire going on behind them, and people walking amongst the fire, and they see the shadows. And from that, they think they can determine exactly what's going on, even though they can't see it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So that we're all in Plato's Cave, all right? Now,
Okay.
I don't know, because it's been a long time I've read about Plato's Cave, but I always say Jesus comes in, and he says, hey, what you see over there is not what you think. I'm going to show you another way. This is what it is. They wind up killing the guy because he doesn't think like they do. And he challenged the norms. So we're all in Plato's Cave. We are all in Plato's Cave. I don't care what anybody says. There's no experts in life. I mean, really, maybe math, but we're all students.
So I know we got to jump to another commercial, okay? And then when we come back, are we going to talk about the 30?
Yeah, I'd
okay.
like to.
So, but before we do, this was sent to me earlier. So again, this is just a reflection of somebody's opinion. It says, and by the way, the statement says, say it louder for the people in the back. Just because you are offended doesn't mean you are right.
Right, that's correct.
So listen, we'll be right back after this next commercial break.
I set the thermostat so my house would be warm when I got home from work, but the kitchen is still cool.
At Barrett Heating and Cooling, we stand behind every Linux system we sell.
My dealer said he'd take care of everything.
At Barrett Heating and Cooling, we understand everyone wants prompt, professional service.
Turns out it wasn't my furnace after all, just a little something blocking the vent.
Pretty smart dog if you ask me. For service you can count on, call Barrett Heating and Cooling.
Lennox. Innovation never felt so good.
At Landmark Realty, we're proud to serve the Riverbend area with offices in Godfrey and Jerseyville. Whether you're buying your first home or your forever home, our team is here to guide you every step of the way. And if you're ready to start your dream business, we can help you find the perfect commercial property. Visit us today at godfreylandmark.com. Landmark Realty, serving the Riverbend and serving you.
Macias Insurance Agency, providing quality products with extremely competitive prices. As an independent provider, we source multiple companies to offer the best rates possible. Covering auto, home, business, and life insurance, our goal is to provide quality service that meets and exceeds customer expectations. You can rest easy knowing the Macias team is working round the clock to ensure that both you and the most important parts of your life are covered. Our qualified professionals make the insurance process easy so you can live carefree and focus on what matters most. Visit MaciasInsuranceAgency.com today to find out what our team can do for you.
By the way, the mics are hot, Troy, so if you want to sing, you can. We're turning this into some karaoke.
Not on my side.
Not on your side. Hey, everybody, welcome back. Conspiracies and Mysteries. Brian Trust and Troy Whitworth. Thank you so much for tuning in. And again, before we jump back into it, because we're on the third part of the podcast, really, I'm encouraging you. What's on your mind? I mean, this is just our very first episode.
Yes.
And there's just so much to cover. Listen, it could be past, it could be present, or you could even tell me where you think we're going, because we have so many conversations of, and I'm going to say it again, where the country was, going directly to JFK. What if the truth was out there? How would we be living in society today, right? Yeah. So, I don't want to say it's the $1 million question. It's really a country question. How many things have changed to be where we're at today?
That assassination of JFK, in my estimation, is the most consequential thing that ever happened as far as how our government is now. I mean, because they got by with it all. And, it's just funny how things are. Sometimes if you hear a story and you can hear a guy talk, and you're in the back of your mind thinking, something's just not making sense here. And so you ask other questions, and we've been asking. I was born a couple of weeks after JFK was assassinated, and anything about the Kennedys, I love to read about, because it was a turning point in this country. You know, we had this sleepy old 50s, which I love, by the way, but you know, Eisenhower and, you know, all that, you know, and then you had this new young attractive guy with his beautiful wife, the Camelot years.
Me, or are we talking about JFK? Oh boy. Okay, we're back to JFK, y'all. Thanks,
Anyway,
Troy.
Let's talk about the 33rd parallel.
Let's go to the 33rd parallel. All right.
Okay. Do you know that where he was assassinated at was just not far from the very first Masonic temple in Dallas on the 33rd parallel? Did you know that?
I didn't.
Okay. Well, there's another whole...
Did you know that? But go ahead.
Well, there's another whole thing out there that the Masons were involved. Now, I know I'm going to probably irritate a lot of Masons, but sadly, a lot of Masons don't know what's going on at the top. But having said that, the 33rd parallel, they know, listen, the 33rd parallel, I mean, the threes, 33, Jesus at 33, it's a sacrificial, you know, number. There's been a lot of UFO activity, most that are fairly well documented, occurring on the 33rd parallel. Most of the world's wealth is above the 33rd parallel. Most of the people that are alive are living south of the 33rd parallel. The 33rd parallel that stretches across this country, there are all kinds of jails and execution, all these things going on the 33rd parallel.
So I just have to ask. I'm going to say I'm asking for a friend, but I'm really asking for me. Explain parallel. So I'm following you with the 30. Is that like a longitude, a latitude, or is it just
It's a line. It's a horizontal line.
By the way, I'm asking for a friend.
Okay. Well, you tell your friend that you're asking someone that's not an expert. Okay. But it's a horizontal line that goes across the United States, and it hits. I know it hits Dallas. I don't know if it hits Phoenix. But, you know, Phoenix, I think, was a spot where there was a lot of UFO activity in time of war. You know, there's just a lot of things that go on the 33rd parallel. I don't know if it's a sacrificial, giving back to God type of a thing. I don't know what it is, but I know that the
but you know it
33rd
exists.
parallel, yes.
Okay.
Oh, there's all kind. Anyway, you know, that line is interesting, and I don't know why or what it's about, but I know that Kennedy was assassinated on the 33rd parallel. The Masonic Hall was really close to that. There's a case that maybe and by the way, the Warren Commission report, the majority of those guys were Masons. You know, so I don't know. Harry Truman was a Mason. Harry Truman was the 33rd president, I believe. And he is the one that designed the dollar bill. I don't know if he did his artwork, but right. I mean, under his administration, designed the dollar bill with all of the symbolism involved.
Right. So here's what I want to get at. Only because we're getting towards the tail end of the podcast. Yeah. Okay. CIA, FBI, all these different things that you talk about, the initials, and they represent, and then you bring up the Masons, correct? Mm-hmm. These conspiracies that we deal with today, and hopefully every Thursday night for years to come, okay, because you guys are listening, is there just so much? So I'm going to go back to we the people. So the federal government has Secret Service, CIA, and all these different things. Mm-hmm. But we the people, I would like to believe that, I'm just going to say if the poop hits the fan, don't we the people have organizations to stand up to protect civilians? Listen, I know I'm getting off topic, but the point that I'm getting at is when you talk about conspiracies, don't you have all these secret identities? I mean, even in the colleges, when you have the fraternities, is there things that just go...
Well, I was a fraternity guy.
Okay, so but things go deeper.
Beyond a doubt, they do.
Right.
You know, I mean, the Greek letter societies, which, you know, I was a fraternity guy. You know, what we got told was they would put the Greek letters on so you knew if there was a meeting going on, you knew what it was about, but everyone else saw was just the Greek letters. They didn't know what it meant.
Right.
You know,
So that's what I'm talking about. Secret society, whether it's civilian or whether it's the government. But we said it, and we're going to end the podcast with whistleblowers. So here's what I'm asking.
That's true.
How many people that are on this planet, how many people are in Congress and these organizations, but yet as far as conspiracies, we're still talking about JFK X amount of years later. We talked about the hydrogen, the guy who invented I guess what I'm trying to get at is as a whistleblower, you want to do your due diligence, and if you're fighting for our country, you want to speak for our country, but you can't come forward today because that's what this podcast is going to be about. I mean, let me see if I'm wrong with this. Okay, it was illegal to sell drugs, right? If you were a drug dealer, you got locked up, but who's selling drugs now and making the most money?
Well, the government is big into it.
Yeah, okay, well, that's where I was going at with this. It's just...
I mean, there's big money in evil, isn't it?
Okay,
there's big money in evil.
Didn't we just say it earlier in the podcast, follow the money?
Yeah.
So whistleblowers.
They're
few and far in between. But anymore you can't talk. The freedom, you have freedom of speech, but if you speak, you also put a target.
Yes. I mean, it's amazing.
Because you told me on the hydrogen, this is how much I remember this.
Boy.
The disappearance was because it was an individual who patented and did it. It wasn't the government.
And his name did not have a PhD behind it. And I think, I don't know if I was talking, I think, about this guy that invented he called it angel light. And it was some kind of a covering that you could lay there and just burn it forever, and it would not melt down. Just would not melt down. He tried to sell it to the military or whatever. They wouldn't have anything to do with it because he was not a PhD. He was not the elite.
He didn't have the initials to go with it.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So, and I mean, listen, you're talking to a guy that invested in patents, that had ideas that I've invented a few things. And if you have deeper pockets than the guy that there was a guy that I met one time had a great idea for an emergency boat propeller. He said, well, I'll just give it to you. I said, don't do that. I said, try and do something with it. And later I thought, you know what? It'd be a waste of time for that guy because he doesn't have the money to do anything with it. So I don't know. The whistleblowers are going to get taken out. Guys, and sadly, I mean, I still can't get over what happened to Charlie Kirk. When opinions get executed, people need to wake up, because if you think you're the side that was okay with that, let me tell you something. There'll be a day that they'll be coming for you too.
Well, I'm going to be transparent with you. We've talked about this podcast for years. Mm-hmm. I was just about to announce it when the unfortunate news of Charlie Kirk, my 14-year-old boy, Dad, please don't do this. So, this is tough. I'm going against his best wishes. But folks, I'm telling you, this is a cool podcast, but let me say it again. This is an entertainment podcast, and we have opinions. I'm asking you for your opinions. Now, don't get me wrong. If somebody sends an email and they tell me it's factual data, then we're talking about something different, right? But on that topic, and I might hurt some feelings, I don't know, okay? Here, let's go back and be transparent. I don't know if I was at a bid lot doing cars or if I was here doing a podcast. I get out, and then it's all over social media, Charlie Kirk. Don't hate me. I didn't know who Charlie Kirk was. Mm-hmm. I felt embarrassed, okay? So then I started watching. I'm like, oh, that's the guy who talks at the college campuses. Yeah. So again, I didn't know him. I didn't know what he stood for. I did enjoy, listening. Mm-hmm. But the reality, what I'm trying to get at, all he was doing was talking. And again, that's what I take of it. Ladies and gentlemen, for those that dislike Charlie or like Charlie, here's what I'm going to tell you. That's like me getting shot just because I'm talking to Troy. Yeah. Okay, now, is there deeper things? I don't know. I don't want to dive into it because I don't personally know. But to get on a microphone and to talk?
Yeah, it's just hard to believe. It's just so hard to believe how you can justify that. But I think that there's so many people nowadays that are barking from their phones.
Keyboard warriors. That's what I talk about.
Yeah, these anarchists that they're barking and they can work people up into a froth.
Well, just really fast before the time comes, I do want to say this. So not necessarily Charlie Kirk, but let's talk about political. My mom always says don't talk politics, okay?
Well,
but how many times on Facebook do you see
slope.
people say, man, I got to cut this friend loose? You know, so listen, you can get worked up and it can get deep, but man, I'm not going to throw away a 15, 20-year relationship because I want to respect your opinion.
Listen, I mean, we all
I really
have
do.
free will. I mean, you know, I can, I told you at the beginning, you know, I loved, you know, John Kennedy and Bobby, and, you know, that what they tried to bring was something that was different and fresh, you know, even though they were Massachusetts Democrats. I mean, they were, you know, they were.
So what you're saying is, old USA, country USA wasn't ready for change?
No, I don't think so, because he was right out of the gate. He was doing things, you know. But you know, I like Truman. I mean, the hair that guy must have had to drop 2 bombs. Yeah, after the first bomb was dropped, they heard nothing. No, sir, no, nothing. They had to drop another. They still finally, you know, there was a flag, you know, but. No, I like Truman. I mean, but I don't know if the other side is willing to say, yeah, you know what, I love Reagan. You know, I don't see that. And I also wonder, I'm going to get into politics here because I know I get people.
I'll tell you what, we got 5 minutes. Go for it.
But I just wonder if let's say the party that you don't like gets in power, and actually because of what they do, it actually makes your life better. Are you going to be honest enough to admit that? And I don't think people do that anymore.
Well, no, because here's what I think. I think anymore, you know, when people are voting, and this is just what I hear, they're not voting for somebody, but what they're doing is they're voting for the lesser of 2 evils. That's how I feel how the people talk today. Because a lot of times, the guy that we aren't voting for, or girl these days, maybe you're not voting them because you really don't know what they stand for, but you're still voting for the other person because...
And let's face it, if you've been brought up in a very liberal household, you know, maybe it's a union household where the guy is, you know, being able to put his kids through school and that sort of thing and food on the table, it's going to be hard to argue against that.
Well, really fast, because I know we're really, really running out of time, but earlier you were talking about federal government, the Treasury, and some different things. I lack the education. So while we're live, if I say something wrong, I'm going to apologize. But on the topic of going back to Charlie Kirk, one of the things that I was hearing, because I know he was a big Trump guy, here's what I want to ask. Because if this is true, whether it's left, right, or whatever, did he pass a thing to where every child born starts a savings account?
No, Trump's talked about that.
Okay, so they're just talking about it.
No, it's not happening.
Okay, so it hasn't happened, but I want to tell you as an everyday person, I think that's amazing.
It's a great idea. But that's what I'm saying. I mean,
but again, I'm not taking sides. I'm just saying I don't care who implemented or said it, but that to me that's freaking intelligence.
It is. But if it helped kids down the road to go to college, I'm wondering if people would say, you know what, that guy was on the other side of the aisle, but that was a good idea. I never hear people being intellectually honest enough to say that sort of thing.
But no, that's what I'm saying is I just heard it through a Charlie Kirk speech, and what I'm trying to tell all of you, whether it's Trump, Troy Whitworth, or Brian Truss, when I say we the people, that's doing for the people.
Yes.
I absolutely love that. So if you're a financial advisor out there, and again, I apologize, I don't know the amount, I don't know the things, but if you're building that interest, that it's being invested for you and for your future, folks, black, white, male, female, rich, broke, I don't care. I love it. I would vote for that.
Well, and, you know, FDR was a great president in my mind, too, because he, you know, got us back to work. And then you have these diehard conservatives say, yeah, but, you know, a couple months down the road, we would have been. Well, I don't know if that's true. You know, it never materialized. But he saved us from so many people wanting communism, kind of like what they're doing now. So I don't know. This political climate is so much different than when I was growing up.
Well, and that's why I said earlier in the podcast, we've seen where our country was because it's history, right? But we're living where it's at now, and I'm concerned about where we're going. So listen, ladies and gentlemen, it's coming to an end. But here's what I want to say. First of all, thank you. And I want to thank RiverBender. Thank you, John and Kathy, for blessing me with another podcast. But now I'm talking to the people. Here's an opportunity where it's an open mic. Again, sometimes I get tired of watching those social platforms and you have to be a government official and sworn in about you saw this UFO and some different things. Folks, this podcast is for you. Your voice gets to be heard. So I'm just so excited about it. Let me help you by making decisions to reach out to me. I want to talk about artificial intelligence. Yeah. I want to talk about how when you and I leave here and I get in my car, that all of a sudden I got these commercials or these different things based on JFK. I know it's going to happen, okay? We talk about whistleblowers. Here, Bigfoot, the Piasa bird. It could be the hauntings here in Alton. I'm opening up this podcast. You deserve to be heard. So again, it's trustonriverbender@gmail.com. I would love to hear from you. Troy, you got any? Because, hey, folks, I think Troy enjoyed himself so much tonight.
I did.
I'm going to keep trying to get him to come back. But, Troy, is there anything that you'd like to address before we clock out here?
Listen, life is a mystery. So there's so many things to talk about. You know, I was thinking about when I came down here, I love the time travel ideas. I love time travel. I'm a very nostalgic kind of guy. Palindromes, I don't know if you're familiar with those. That's something that can be talked about.
I want you and I want them to open up my eyes, because you just said it. Life is a mystery.
Yeah, the whole thing.
And you know what mystery equals for me? Interesting.
Yeah, I agree.
So let's have some interesting conversations. Let's just be a couple people in the studio. I don't see any Papa Tops back here, but I don't know what's allowed in the studio. But let's just have good old-fashioned conversation, and let's also keep an open mind to opinions. You're entitled.
Yeah, this is just opinions.
Yeah,
I mean, you know,
you're entitled to your opinion.
Right.
But let's just hope that we can refrain on some of the stuff that we're seeing today.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I ever had that fire where I'm going out, with a torch and gonna, take someone out. And I'm past all that stuff. So if we can't have a civil discourse, I'll just sit back and I want to ask some questions. But if this is a confrontational deal, that's just not my bag.
All right, we're out of time. So listen, if you watched our very first episode and you enjoy it, I'm encouraging you to share it. I'm actually going to ask you to do one more thing. I know that I'm being so repetitive.